Let's bring in CBS News political director, Face the Nation moderator, John Dickerson. He joins us now from Washington. And John, let's begin with the president's tax returns. I mean, what stood out to you about the content of these documents and also the way in which they were released?
Well, the content is, it looks like he paid more taxes than he used to boast about. When I interviewed him back in August of 2015, he said he paid as little as possible. He actually paid here more than somebody with that amount of money could pay, and because, of course, they can pay less because they have lots of tax attorneys and accountants who can usually whittle things down a lot. So, you know, this is not, people have wondered why he's been so reluctant to release his tax return. A rule of politics for the last many years. The findings that were released today don't give any answers for why has refused to release his tax returns. It's not because his tax rate was vanishingly low.
Yeah, it actually sort of, I thought, made him look not so bad at all. Do you think it works to sort of disprove what some Democrats have been saying, is that he's not paying enough federal income tax? In fact, he's not paying any at all. Clearly, he's paying a lot.
Well, there was that claim. Now, of course, this is just a tiny little sliver of many different years, so we really don't know what. But absolutely, I mean, put these tax returns against the claim that he paid nothing, and that's not the case. So there are lots of questions surrounding the Trump tax returns, and this really doesn't answer very many of them.
And we just put up a tweet there from the president that came early Wednesday morning. Does anybody really believe that a reporter who nobody ever heard of, quote, went to his mailbox, end quote, and found my tax returns at NBC News? Fake news. And all of this, John, comes as the Republican health care bill continues to press ahead. And Speaker Paul Ryan said yesterday he has been speaking to President Trump pretty darn often. Those are his words, to make sure this bill passes. But do you get the sense that the Speaker and the White House are on the same page when it comes to this?
Well, they are, in the sense that they both would like it to pass. They both are downplaying the official accounting by the Congressional Budget Office, but they don't necessarily, either one of them, have a solution for how you get the bill through the House and the Senate. When you change things to pick up more conservatives in the House, you endanger the bill in the Senate. So there's not a clear solution of the way this is going to get fixed. And so they may be on the same page, but that page at the moment doesn't contain directions for how to get to success here.
So, John, we heard in Margaret Brennan's story that the president is headed to a rally to drum up some support for the health care bill. He's headed to Nashville tonight. This is the sort of thing that Barack Obama used to do, take his pitch on the road. What do you make of the political calculation here when it comes to getting him in front of a crowd of people who are most likely his supporters?
Well, Donald Trump is our first president who was a marketer by trade and whose success in life came from marketing. And so this should be right up his alley. But usually when Donald Trump has sold himself as a candidate and or his products as a private businessman, it wasn't this complicated. It didn't have all of the kind of constraining things that happen in politics. There was no CBO. And so this is a new challenge for him. And it'll be fascinating to see if he can take what Paul Ryan explained in the course of a half an hour, if he can boil that down into a simple slogan that gets over some big problems. One, the number of people covered. Two, the fact that premiums may go up for people in rural areas or older folks, which is, two groups that voted for Donald Trump. And also the kind of complexity of this, the multi-stage process. Usually Donald Trump as a candidate has used the complexity of things to raise suspicion about them. Because, he's basically said anything that's this complicated and has this much sort of Washington talk around it, you should be suspicious about. So this is it'll be a fascinating thing to see how he tries to sell this. And selling is important because he can't do it through brute force alone, or else what he gets everybody to sign up for will be sort of shaky support built only out of force, not because people loved it on its own.
And finally, John, I want to get your thoughts on this. Rhode Island Senator Sheldon Whitehouse is now indicating that FBI Director James Comey could provide more information about potential investigations involving Russia as soon as today. What are you going to be watching for here moving forward?
Well, there are so many different, I guess, one thing to watch for is just anything James Comey says is fascinating because, of course, He used to stay quite silent on any investigations. Then during the Hillary Clinton email investigation, he came out, and then he came out again. And there's most people, even those who are huge James Comey fans, think he didn't handle that so well. He put himself in kind of a box. He's once you start talking, then everybody expects you to talk on everything. So what's he going to talk about? He's going to talk about the scope of all the Russia investigations. Is he going to talk about just those investigations related to the Trump campaign? Is he going to address this extraordinary charge that President Trump made about President Obama wiretapping Trump Tower? It's really a big mystery. So I'll be watching basically for everything, but content is and how he tries to kind of say a very out. He's obviously not going to talk about the whole thing he's investigating, but how do you do that? Is that even possible to sort of dip your toe into this conversation and then try and withdraw it? Is kind of a tough thing to do.
All right, John Dickerson in Washington, thank you so much.
Take care, Amory.